so. Okay, we're gonna record this. I don't know what happened to it. Disappears. But we'll start here. So we're gonna have, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming out. We almost have a full crew, so it's great to see everybody. And we have Thomas joining us this morning, all the way from somewhere you'll probably disclose later. I've had several questions where you are, so we're going to have Spencer Horn talk to us about communications. We had him yesterday, and Izar had like, I think 4 of your guys. I think they really got a lot out of it. So I'll just read kind of the opening thing. Have you ever wondered why your team members don't have the same level of communication you do? Would you like them to think critically and be more proactive in solving problems in the business? I think we can all agree with that. Well, Spencer is 33 years in the corporate world. He was the CEO and the VP of a NASDAQ company, and he has made plenty of mistakes that he's learned from those those trials and errors, and he's going to share with us a winning formula for creating engaging and accountable communications and reports from your team. Outside of his speaking, Spencer stands tall, 6'7". We won't be able to tell that on the video unless he stands up and we'll just see his navel. He's, even though his dad was only 5'11", I think that's interesting. He's a proud grandpa of 9 little ones, and he's an avid hiker, a mountain biker, and he loves to eat and crap and enjoys food, but he loves to exercise, so he keeps the balance. So with that, I'll give the floor to you, and we'll go through the session. We are going to have some breakouts in pair up and stuff like that, and then if Sage comes on, we'll have him join with us as well. So with that, the floor is yours. Oh, and now we can hear it. Oh, he's on mute.
No, it's my fault. It's more about carbs, not crabs. That's why I have to do all the hiking, you know, stay ahead of the carbs that I have this dysfunctional relationship with.
There you go.
So good to be with you virtually this morning. Would much rather be with you in person. I get to apologize. My voice is really on the mend. I've had a terrible chest cold this last week, and so if I do cough, please forgive me, and my voice is a little raspy. This is about delegation, and today this is a topic that I spend more time with senior executives, emerging leaders on than any other. And I want to ask you how you feel like, I don't know anybody's names around the room. And Steve, I think it would be great if each of you could tell me your name, because I'd like to be able to write it down to do my best to call you by name, maybe starting, it looks like it's Cody on the left, on my left. Is that right?
He stepped out for a minute, so we'll start with.
Okay. I'd love to have you tell me your name, and I'd love for you to tell me how you feel. How would you rate yourself that you're doing with delegation and your key people? How are your key people doing at delegation? And please, be as honest as you possibly can. Who'd like to start? Can we start on who's after Cody? I can't read your name tag.
Yes, nice to meet you. My name's Russell.
Russell.
Yeah, I'd say I'm doing mediocre with delegating, and my team is doing worse than that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being honest.
Thank you for your honesty.
Yes, next.
Hello, good morning. My name is Kim, and how do I feel? I think I feel mediocre as well. I think there's a couple of my key people that are great at delegating. I think I'm
good.
Mediocre though. Yeah.
My name is Aki. I'm pathetic.
How do you spell that? I want to make sure I get it right.
AKI.
AKI. Aki, thank you. That helps. I'm very visual.
Yes, I'm control freak. I'm pathetic about delegating.
I love the honesty. Control freak is what I got written down. And you know what? We'll talk about that.
Thank you. Therapy time.
Ricky, I'm forced to, even though I don't like it, I'm forced to do it. I'm a hybrid CEO, so I spend half the year in Texas away from Hawaii and then half the year here in Hawaii in person. So I'm kind of forced to do it, but I don't like it.
What don't you like about it? Tell me.
Control, just not trusting my second and third in command to do it the way I do it.
Yes, thank you. That'll be my next question. I assume that's Tom. Thank you for your help today. I love that haircut, brother.
Oh, it's nothing. It takes hours.
Yes, I know. It's a lot of work, especially for our vanities, right? You know, we got to spend a lot of time on that. I got it. Next,
My name is Danny.
Danny.
Pretty bad at delegating.
Okay.
If I want something right, I have to do it myself. That's sort of the philosophy behind that. And my team is actually pretty good at it because I think their roles are pretty standard and you know, they don't have a lot of unusual things to deal with.
That's good. That's good. This used to be called if you want something done right, don't do it yourself. But that was too complicated. Thank you. Next.
I'm Norman. I'm a lawyer, so I'm pretty good at delegating because that's our life goal is to get older and then hand all the work down and not do anything. And so as a result, the rest of my team is pretty good at it too because everybody's trying to.
Excellent. How so to take that a deeper level. You're good at maybe delegating tasks. How are you at the follow-up and the accountability?
Good because the clients make sure.
Brilliant. I'm so glad to hear that. So we'll tap into you and your experience. Excellent. Next.
My name is Isar, Isar. I was really bad. I've gotten a little better, but I'm still pretty bad. I have delegated pretty much all the technical tasks in my team, and they take care of a lot of that. Some of them were in the meeting yesterday from my company. A lot of administrative and kind of operational tasks. I'm still transitioning that, but
Yeah.
good, better job this week. So
Yeah.
I need to get better at it.
Thank you.
Jason, I'm really good at assigning work. I'm not too good at actually getting the work, having them get the work done.
Okay, and that's not an uncommon problem, Jason. So we'll hopefully the tools that I give you today will be a huge help with that.
Yeah, I wish a couple of my guys came to the meeting yesterday. I kind of forgot about that.
We could talk about that later.
Yeah, one out of my two guys that have a big group of stuff that they can delegate. They're not that good at it.
You know, and you're not alone. I mean, I think that Norman, you are more in the minority, and in my experience, all around the world, most executives really struggle with that. Steve, I like your haircut too, brother.
Oh, thank you.
So my question is,
We have two more people.
oh yeah, who are they?
Okay.
Yeah.
Ah, there they are.
Well, Lane, I would say delegation has gotten a little worse recently because I kind of found that AI can just do things for me and I just do it.
And how's that working out?
On one hand, I don't get as frustrated because I only have myself to blame. But on the other hand, I probably don't give my people enough things to do.
You know, that's actually one of the big challenges of the workplace today as AI is taking over more and more jobs. A lot of entry-level jobs are being taken up by these technologies. And so what we're finding is that entry-level people are needing more high-level tasks that normally wouldn't come until they had more experience. And so that's a challenge for a lot of organizations because, you know, as we were talking about trust earlier, right? I think that was, I don't know if that was you, Ricky, that said that, but we have to, you know, trust our people to get, you know, do more high-level tasks, and that's a difficult thing. And so there's this interesting relationship between AI and delegation that's causing some problems over the last few years. I've seen that happen. Okay, thank you, Lane. Who's next?
Sage, and I am really
Sage.
I delegate everything.
Excellent.
Yeah, I delegate everything. I'm in build mode right now, so there's things that I cannot delegate because I need to build a foundation. But I delegate everything. So, and I have systems and people that manage the systems and accountability of my staff and the team. So I'm excited to hear.
Fantastic, Sage. So here's my hope to you that both you and Norman, if I can give you a methodology that will help you be even better at that delegation, using a system for helping people to solve their own problems. Hopefully that will benefit you as well. It's not going to, obviously you guys are doing well at it, but most of you have this challenge. And I'm going to ask you why. Why do you think it's so difficult? We heard a couple of things like trust, control freak, uh, forced to do it. What are the reasons why do you think this is so hard for so many executives?
Easier to do everything by yourself. Easier and faster.
Easier and faster to do it yourself. Really, is that true though?
If you have time.
You can trust the outcome.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, that argument is true in the short term. But what happens in the long term? As you grow, what is the problem with scaling with that model?
Yeah, scale.
You become the bottleneck for growth in your organization because everything has to go through you, right? There's a great model that I'd love to share with you afterwards. There's a CEO by the name of Ralph Steyer. And I love talking about him because he wrote about his experience, which was a 10-year-long experience. He was the CEO of Johnsonville Sausages, which in the 1980s was a very medium-sized, small food manufacturer in Wisconsin. And the company was growing about 24% every year. So they were doing well. But his concern was that maybe a larger competitor would come and, buy them out. And the quality wasn't terrible, but it wasn't as good as he wanted it to be because all the quality control resided with him and his senior manager. And so, people didn't specifically or purposely sabotage quality, but they just didn't own it. And he wanted to create a culture of accountability and ownership throughout his entire organization because he knew as a control freak, he was the limiting factor in the growth of his company. He attempted to start delegating everything. And what he did was a disaster because he just started abdicating everything and asked people to kind of guess what it was he wanted. When that didn't work, he put the mirror on himself and realized he needed to change how he delegated. And he was so committed to this process, he put a sign on his desk. And the sign said, "The answer is the question." So when people would come in and ask a question to him, he would always turn that back to them. What do you think? What are your ideas? What are your plans? And after 10 years, he looked at the ownership in his company and he realized that he thought that he would someday arrive at this magical place where everyone would have great ownership. And he realized that this is a process that never ends. This is part of leadership, developing and instilling a culture of accountability, create critical thinkers. It is true that it takes time up front. If you have children, how many of you have children in the room by raise of hands? Okay. Which is easier, to clean their rooms for them or to teach them how to do it when they're toddlers?
To do it.
Obviously, do it yourself. But what's the problem with that? You're going to be doing it for the rest of their lives. So at some point, you have to transition, taking time from somewhere else and teach them how to do that. It's not necessarily efficient in the beginning. So often, as business leaders, we're so interested in efficiency that we're not being effective. In the short term, that efficiency is being traded for long-term efficiency. And so my hope is that I will teach you how to take an extra 15 or 30 minutes of your day away from doing your people's work and transition that into coaching them how to perform better and to take greater ownership and to have more on their plate so that they can help you in the fight that you're fighting. Would that be okay? Any other reason why you think this is difficult?
I
think it's difficult because it's uncomfortable to hold people accountable.
Yes, and that is such a good point. And that is also a personality issue. So one of the things that I wanted to do, and if we have time, if I'm efficient with my presentation today, we might do a live behavioral assessment. Some of you, when we talk about control, that is a behavioral type. Some of you want it done your way. Some of you want it done the way. That's the control freak, right? It's not about your way, it's about the right way, right? Aki, does that feel? So it's about doing it. It's got to be the right way according to the process or the system. Some of you will avoid doing it, giving it to someone else, because if they screw it up, you actually have to talk to them. That's a different kind of issue when it comes to delegation. One of the behavioral profiles that has the best time delegating is what we call high extrovert. They love to motivate and encourage others. Doesn't mean it's easy. It's easier usually than the other three behavioral styles. So personality absolutely comes into the equation, and it's good to know what yours is because it's going to be different for all of you. I want you to have a sign on your desk facing you that says, whose job am I doing right now? And Sage, I'm glad you've got that figured out because I want you to coach and mentor your people here and share your experience and how you're doing that. I think that would be great, and Norman as well, because we have some resources in the room that are doing a great job. Okay, well, here's a couple of reasons that I found. Number one, there's a lack of urgency. What do I mean by that? Business is generally good. Things, you've heard that saying, if it ain't broke, right? Don't fix it. So, sometimes when you're a young company and you're growing, you're used to doing everything yourself, and so that creates a pattern. As a founding leader in your organization, you're used to doing everything, but business is growing, and so it's like, okay, well, it's working. But again, that's a really a limitation to scaling if you keep that going. There's a lot of smart people in the room. We've got lawyers, we've got, I don't know, maybe we have engineers, and I work with doctors, I work with all kinds of people that are just really smart. And sometimes there's this tendency to conflate, your business acumen with delegation or leadership skills. And the other thing is what I'm going to teach you today is so basic. The skills are so simple. There is the temptation that you will have to dismiss what I tell you because it's like, it can't be that easy. The skills are simple, but when you put them together in the formula that I'm going to give you, it creates magic. It creates ownership. And it just takes a little bit of time to slow down and change your mindset with how you approach the problem. And I honestly believe, Sage and Norman, this will actually be of huge benefit to you as well. Some people just don't know how. And we talked already about behavioral traits, so we'll skip that. Habits are learned a lot of times from our mentors. Maybe you had mentors that were part of, baby boomer or, the greatest generation who learned how to lead by fighting 2 world wars. The command and control style of the older generations, of which, I'm the first year Gen X, is a little outdated today. The kids that are working to us, we'll talk briefly about that. They want your time. They want your focus. They want you to teach them and mentor them. They want your jobs. They think they can do it because of AI and YouTube. They think they know all the answers, don't they? But they have never had their head handed to them yet. And so, you've got to build that trust with them. But it is true that they want to grow and learn. Maybe you lack trust. We've already heard that once today. Maybe you've delegated and failed at it before. Maybe you're just too busy, or maybe you're afraid that it's, too much is on the line. So those are some of the reasons that I found that people really struggle with delegation. Let me just mention a little bit about the generations. You know what? Mostly, we make too much about generational differences. People want to make a difference. They want to have good lives. They want to do a good job. I think the biggest difference is they want to know, the younger generations, young millennials, Gen Z, even older millennials, they want to know that you care about them. And one of the best ways that you can show that you care about them is to spend time mentoring, helping, and coaching them. I have a question for you. What are the 2 things that cause people to love their job? What is it? I'm not talking about things that prevent them from quitting. What is it that caused people to love their job? What do you think?
Mission, culture.
Did you say healthcare?
Culture.
Culture. Oh, sorry. I apologize. Culture.
Healthcare too, though.
Culture is what we call a hygiene motivator. It's one of the things that prevents them from quitting. It's not that causes them to love their job, by the way.
I think it could be the relationship with their direct supervisor.
Okay, that's part of it. It's Jason, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Some other ideas?
Autonomy.
Autonomy. Okay. Couple more. What do you think? When you guys are smart.
I think the ownership, for me in my experience, the ability to actually think. A lot of times I work with people and they're used to just getting orders. But when you give them, I guess this is for me culture. But when you give them the opportunity to actually think and develop what they're trying, even if they fail and you say no, I've seen that keep people on board a lot longer. Because they then get that sense of ownership.
So good, Sage, and that is really at the heart of the number one motivator. That's really, really important. I want you all to remember ownership is so important, but it is that they are making a difference. They feel that they're making a difference. They're making a contribution, and that comes from owning the solutions and the ideas, right, Sage? So it's they're being trusted to put forward their ideas, and that those ideas are making a positive impact, and that they know that. And so, Jason, that then comes back to the relationship, right, that you have with them. So that's tied into that. That is the number one thing. The number two, this is different. This is sometimes one that we struggle to know, and it is that the capabilities that they have are slightly below the demands on them. In other words, they're growing. They're being challenged. Think about the, if I were to, I wish I could. Hey, Steve, when you have a chance, will you make sure that I can share my screen while we're talking here so that I can? I was going to do a little draw, but I want you to imagine a hockey stick, a J curve with a company. I don't know if you've ever noticed the growth trajectory of a company starts up here and then usually dips down and starts to grow again and eventually plateaus and goes down, if you're familiar with that hockey stick idea. And part of the thing that you want to do as a company is disrupt your own company before the company starts to go down in revenues. And that's the whole disruptive technology. Just disrupting your business that Clayton Christensen discovered, decades ago. But we as individuals need to do that as well. We need to reinvent ourselves. There's this euphoria that comes when we learn something new. Anytime you do something new, it feels so uncomfortable, right? And that's where most of the growth is. It's not showing visually, but we're growing. And eventually when we start to get better at the task, we're learning to walk as a child. We're falling down a lot, so it doesn't feel like we're making a lot of progress. And then all of a sudden that progress goes very, very quickly. And that's where the dopamine kicks in. And we're excited because we're seeing the impact of our efforts. But eventually we achieve mastery and we start to plateau in the impact that we make. And if we don't have a new J curve, something new to learn or to grow, we become stale. We become bored. How many of you can relate to that in your own life? If you get to a place where it's just you're doing the same things over and over again, there's no challenge, there's no motivation. So for you, this is an opportunity for you to be able to give your people an opportunity to grow and to learn. And that's one of the greatest motivators that you can have that really ties into what they want to be able to stick with you longer. Okay, you get it. We need to delegate. But how many of you feel like this? You're a little busy. And coaching and delegating people feels like it's overwhelming. Well, let me tell you why you're so busy. The reason you are so busy is because of monkeys. All right? What are monkeys? Anybody know?
Important task, actions, and commitment.
Thank you for reading your workbook. Look at that. He's following along. Monkeys are important tasks. Now, I know this is a super cheesy metaphor. Suck it up. This is a sticky idea. That's why we're going to talk about it for a few minutes. But William Onken 50 years ago wrote an article that is the #2 most downloaded Harvard Business Review article of all time. I'll give that to you later. It's called Time Management, Who's Got the Monkey? And monkeys are important tasks. And monkeys are happening all the time. But leadership, one of the things that leadership is about getting people to want to do important things. And coaching is a tool for you to really get people who want to do important things. It's exactly what Sage was talking about. They have this ownership, they have this desire to make an impact. That's what leadership is all about. And monkeys are those important things. Now, monkeys get passed back and forth all the time. So let me give you an example. Steve, I'm going to use your name, okay?
Okay.
So employee comes to Steve, one of his employees, and says, "Hey, good morning, Steve. We have a problem." And Steve says, "I'm so glad you mentioned this. I'm in a rush right now. I got to go to my Vistage meeting and work with all these great people that I work with. Let me think about it, and I'll let you know." And so then you part ways, right? And as a busy manager, after this Vistage meeting, Steve, you got to work on all these other priorities that you have, right? All the follow-up things. In the meantime, your employee is waiting to hear back from you to get back to them. And they can't move forward until they hear from you. Well, you're in Hawaii, and so maybe they give you a day to relax. And by the time you get back on Monday, they can't wait anymore. And so they come to your office and they say, "Hey, Steve, remember that problem I brought to you last Thursday? Where are you at with that?" How many of you have ever had a conversation like that with people on your team? If you're honest. Thank you. What this is called is supervision. Your people are supervising the task that they gave you, the monkey that they gave you. How many of you have ever accepted a monkey from your people? And then they followed up with you on how you were doing with the task that they delegated to you. If you're honest, I see a couple hands going up. Stop that. Now, am I telling you to never take monkeys from your people? No. But I want to show you how simple it is to take monkeys from your people. I need 3 volunteers, and this is the most easy assignment you will have the entire day. So who's going to be my 3 volunteers? It's okay to move quickly, people. Okay, Aki, thank you. You'll be number 1. I think that's Lane. Is that right? Is that Lane? You'll be number 2. All right, who's number 3?
Russell.
Russell. All right, Russell, you'll be number 3. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I'm going to share my screen. You are going to read just so Aki, I want you to read 1A in just a minute. Okay, wait, hold on a minute. Lane, you're going to read 2A, and Russell, you'll read 3A after I cue you. Okay, Aki, I'm confused by this report. I know you created it. Would you mind finishing it for me for our head office deadline?
Sure, I can. Email me what you have done and I'll finish it today.
Okay.
Hold on. Here you go, Aki. Thank you so much for taking my monkey.
You're welcome.
All right. Okay, here we go. Lane, you're gonna do 2 after I read. Hold on. In creating this new orientation checklist, Lane, I've gotten stuck. You have a ton of experience in training people and processes. Could you please create a checklist for us to train everyone on so that they could follow it?
Okay, give me a few days, I'll have it done by Friday.
Oh, thank you. Okay, here we go, Russell. I have been asked for some thoughts on how to improve communication. I think you have great ideas on this. Would you mind putting together a few thoughts so I can include them in my response to the executive team?
Do have a lot of ideas about communication. Thanks for including me.
Oh, you're welcome. Okay, now we're going to do this again. How many of you, be honest, how many of you have ever really responded like that? Yeah, it's easy to do, right? We want to be helpful. We want to do all these things. We'll talk about why we do that in a second, but I want to shift it. Now you're going to read 1B, 2B, etc. Okay. All right, here we go, Aki. Let me put it back up for you. Okay, Aki, I'm confused by this report. I know you created it. Would you mind finishing it for me for our head office deadline?
How about we meet at 1 p.m. tomorrow and I'll show you how to complete it.
How does that feel, Aki?
Means that I'm coaching.
Yes. What else do you notice about that response?
You're pulling the other person in, their involvement.
Okay, exactly. Anything else?
It's not right now.
And why is that important?
Hopefully they're just gonna do it because they don't want to meet with you.
But Jason, on whose timetable is that meeting occurring?
In my time.
Right. So you own that timetable, which is important for your sanity and right and just being that leader. I know it seems like a small thing, but it's, control that day so you're not feeling overwhelmed, right? It's just such a simple thing. All right, let's do number 2 here. Hold on. So, okay. Lane, in creating this new orientation checklist, I've gotten stuck. You have a ton of experience in training people and processes. Could you please create a checklist for us to train everyone on to follow?
I'll be happy to offer my feedback on a checklist you create. When do you think you might have a draft of a checklist?
How do you like that? I want you to emphasize you. I want you to really, when do you think you will have that, right? It's not that we're not willing to help people, but make sure the monkey stays with the employee. The ownership stays with them, because the minute you take that away from them, when you're already overwhelmed, it can cause them to not move forward with the work that they need to do. Okay, Russell, last one. I've been asked to put for some thoughts on how to improve communication. I think you have great ideas on this. Would you mind putting together a few thoughts so I can include them in my response to the executive team?
How about if we have coffee tomorrow morning and I can give you my thoughts so you can include them in your response?
Okay. Just tell me how this feels the second time around. Would you like to be able to change that response? You're still going to be helpful. Avoid taking the monkey. All right, we're going to spend a little bit of time on monkey management just for a second, because I want you to remember this concept. So there's a couple of reasons why we allow this upward delegation. You want to be a good boss. You think you're helping your team members by taking on some of their assignments, and you don't want them to be unhappy. You may think you're the only one capable of making important decisions. Some of you actually have a need to control people in circumstances. You want to be liked. That's a different personality. That's the high extrovert. Nobody can do it exactly like you can. And that could be a good thing, unless there's a specific engineering process or, medical procedure that needs to be done a certain way in terms of, there's some things that can be done varied based on, the person's approach and style, and that could actually do it better than you. You want to avoid conflict, and that's what Jason and I was talking about earlier. That's a style of personality that can accept upward delegation or take on more than they should. You have a have to work hard mentality, or you want to be the hero. You're used to that. So monkeys that are really, they're important tasks, and it's the next step in any conversation between two parties. And there's always two roles, one to do the work and one to coach, right, Sage? You've got your people doing stuff and you want them to own those tasks and you're not going to step in. The problem happens a lot is that you all got to where you are by being doers. Would you agree? Most of you are doers. And it's hard when people don't produce or work at the same level or the same way that you do. And what will happen, some of you talked about your lieutenants maybe have a struggle with this because they got promoted because they're doers as well. And so much of their satisfaction comes from doing the work. And now that they're managing people doing work, that's a completely different skill set. And they may not be great at it. So sometimes what ends up happening is they welcome doing the work that they used to do and stepping on the toes of the people that they manage. And they actually retard or slow the development of their people because they're stepping in and taking more responsibility than they should. It's a very, very common phenomenon. And so you need to make sure that those roles are delineated, one to do the work and one to coach. Please excuse me. And when we take care of those monkeys, the business moves forward and is wonderful. But when we don't, the monkeys start to pile up. They cause all kinds of difficulties. And let me just give you an example of one of the challenges that comes when you end up taking on too much of your people's work. How many of you have ever found yourself working late into the night just to catch up on the work that you have to do? And at some point, what do? You grab your monkeys, you put them in your briefcase, your satchel, your man purse. And you grab that and you go home, right? But what's going through your mind as you get home to the people that love you?
Which monkey am I gonna play with first?
Yeah, you're thinking about those monkeys and they're screaming in the back of your mind. And when people are hugging you and loving you and you're not as present as you need to be, how many of you have ever been there? So you sit at the kitchen table, you eat dinner, and you're like, oh, I'll take care of those after dinner. After dinner, you're like, oh, crap. I just got to watch a show and relax. I've been working hard. So you watch that show and you say, you know what? I'll get up early in the morning and go into the office when nobody's there because that's when I can get things done. People don't interrupt me. You go into the office, and this happened to one of our clients. He went in the office and he's like, it's really quiet. How come people haven't started coming to work yet? He was being really productive. And he looked out his window where there was actually a golf course and he saw members of his team playing golf. And it was then he realized it was Saturday and he didn't even know it. This is how monkeys that pile up affect us when we take on more work than we should. I want you to have life. I want you to have the ability to grow your team without having all of that burden be on you. I want that burden to be shared. Sage, how does it feel when you have those people that are helping you lift?
Feels like I can do anything.
It feels like you can do so much more. And you can be working on your business, not in your business. And that leverages your ability to be strategic and do so much more. And at the same time, have the life that you've always desired. And that's really my goal for you. Okay, couple more things about monkey management for this to stick, and we'll move on from this topic, all right? Now, let's turn to page 2 in your workbook. As people work with us, our goal is to move them through a continuum of trust and ownership. And people will perform at different levels based on how we treat them. So we talked a little bit about AI and new people in the company. Maybe, we want them to start with us. And usually we don't give them a lot of trust, right? We say, we give them the first degree of freedom. Don't do anything until I tell you. Well, that's called micromanagement. Would you agree? Well, we very quickly want to get off of that into the second degree of freedom, which is go do the task, but report back to me right away. That's a little less micromanagement. We want to move them to the third degree of freedom, which is go do and report to me weekly. That's even less micromanagement. And that's where we want to get a lot of our people to that level where we have weekly accountability. Now, you may have direct reports that work for you If you do the fourth degree of freedom, that is brilliant. Just keep me posted. And that is a place where you have so much freedom because you trust them and they're doing the work they need to do without you watching over them all the time. How many of you feel like that would be a great place to be? Our job is to move our people through that continuum as quickly as possible. And that requires coaching and mentoring. Okay, two more slides on this whole idea of monkey management. Here's what you can do with monkeys. You can feed them. What does that mean? That means that you meet face to face with your direct report to talk about that task. Now, when I say face to face, Steve, you asked a great question yesterday, and that does this count as face to face? And the answer is yes. You may have remote teams. One of you said that. Who was that said you had your teams remote? Was that you, Danny?
Rick, yeah.
Ricky. Okay. So face to face can be, if you had to telephone, but at least, a Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever. Best to do that in person. You can shoot monkeys. I hope there's no PETA lovers here. But shooting monkeys means that you are eliminating that as a priority. And number 3, avoid letting them starve. That means if you're busy and you take on responsibilities of other people and you're not giving that the attention that you need to do, business is slowing down. Customers are not receiving the care that they need. Employees are being neglected. That's the challenge that we have. Hold on a second here. Here's a couple of great resources on what I'm sharing with you right now. Here, if you've ever heard of Ken Blanchard, he's the 1 Minute Manager guy. He partnered with William Onken to write The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey. Great book. I'm not a big fan of parables, but this has some great principles, and I'm just giving you the highlights of those principles. I love this book. This is from the Covey people, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. Great book. And then this is from the Crucial Conversations people, Crucial Accountability. So much of what I'm teaching you here has overlap in some of these great resources. And there's not a lot of people that talk about accountability, but these are 3 that I have found if you want those. Okay, so avoid letting them starve. Now, every monkey must have a scheduled feeding time. That means you have a return and report time. At some point, you want an accountability report on how people are doing. A lot of times when we give a task, we just say, take care of it. And yeah, that's the 4th degree of freedom. But at some point, there needs to be an accountability. And that's where they return and report and say, yes, I accomplished this according to the goal, the deadline, whatever it is. Very, very important. I had a great mentor that I used to interrupt all the time. He was the CEO of 2 publicly traded companies. And I was new out of college. I was 26 years old. He eventually promoted me. I became the vice president of this NASDAQ company. But I had to learn to be disciplined, to not interrupt him every time I had a question, unless it was an emergency. And we had regular time, which he was so wonderful at coaching me and mentoring me. We would sit down and I would share all my concerns. But I had to be disciplined. And I was working on things and being prepared. And I knew that I had that meeting with him so that when we met, it was such a good use of our time. I think today's world, we're so used to responding immediately that we're getting away from being efficient in our time management. So have that scheduled feeding time. Make yourself more effective in how you control your day. And they must always be fed in person, not via email. Why? I want you to tell me why you shouldn't talk about the monkeys via email.
It's too long when you have questions.
I think that's a good reason. Yeah. Why else?
There's a lag time. You need to wait for an email and come back for a email. So it doesn't happen, but in person, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. So conversation going to be back.
Well, yeah, yes. And sometimes you have to wait for that live meeting. So there's a lag time in live meetings as well.
There's a connection you make when you're in person.
Yeah, that's true. Kim, I mean, that's part of it.
Interpretation of tone and like you said, body language.
Yeah, you guys have been listening to past speakers, haven't you? Yeah, that's one of it. That's part of it. It's not the main reason though.
It's easy for the other person to give the monkey back on email.
Oh, hallelujah. How often nobody ever gets that? How many of you have ever missed an email? All the time. Hey, Ricky, I sent you that email. How come you didn't respond? Heck, the reason you don't want to do it via email is because they can inadvertently assign you a task and you not even know it. That's the biggest reason to say, listen, if we need to talk about this, pick up the phone or call me or make an appointment to talk to me about it. We want to be very careful to keep ownership with that person. So that's a discipline on your part. All those other things are important, but the most important reason is you want to keep ownership. And remember what Sage said. What is it that people love about their job? It's the ownership. So often when people come, how many people have people that come to you with a question? And what do you usually do?
Give them the answer.
You give them the answer, and you do that because that's efficient, isn't it? Stop that. If you give them the answer, what have you just trained them to do? Treat you like freaking Chat GPT. You are the person that they go to, and they take less and less responsibility and less ownership. On the other hand, if you flip that back to them and say, listen, I know that you have great insights and that you have, you're on the front lines of this work. I would love for you to share with me your perspective and your ideas, and I will be happy to give my feedback on your ideas on this. And if you haven't thought about that, why don't you go think about that and come back and tell me? Throw it back to them. Give them that ownership. Give them that trust. Give them that honor that you're going to believe in them a little bit. It's not as efficient, but over time, it actually will be. Making sense?
Yep.
Are you with me so far? Are you done with monkeys? Okay. So the biggest message here is what? You guys know what Mater said, right? To not to. Yeah, don't take those. Unless, of course, only you can do it. That sign on your desk, whose job am I doing now? If it needs to be you, then absolutely by all means take that. Okay, we're going to go a little bit time. I know that international time zones, no matter where you are, is after about 9:30, which we've passed, you've got to go to the bathroom. So can you guys hold on a little bit longer before we take a break?
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to do a little exercise before. So turn in your workbooks, please, to page number, oh crap, what did I just do with my workbook? Okay, page number 4. Yes, thank you. We're going to do a little communication exercise here. And I want you to list 6 people that you communicate with and listen to regularly in your role. And then I want you to list who on that list are the 2 worst listeners and list the characteristics. Take the time to list those characteristics. Dig in here, right? And then I want you to list the 2 best listeners. What do they do? What are their characteristics? What are their behaviors? Well, Steve, my voice feels a little bit better, but it's still tight, man.
It's better than yesterday.
Yeah, I'm getting better. One more minute. Thirty seconds. All right. All right, let's bring those thoughts to a close here. Tell me the characteristics of the worst listeners. I've got a flip chart here, and I'm going to write them down what you tell me. What do they do?
Defensive.
Say that again.
Defensive.
Defensive. Excellent. What else do they do?
Make excuses.
Make excuses.
Terrible follow-up.
Yes, terrible follow-up.
Poor communication in general.
Poor communication.
Distracted.
Distracted. No, I'm listening. Yeah, no, keep talking. Yeah, I'm with you.
Afraid,
What do you mean by that?
just afraid for their job, like of screwing up, of making mistakes.
Okay. And so they're not listening as much because they're thinking about the worst case scenario. I can see that.
Always waiting to speak,
Yes, waiting to speak.
not actively listening.
I call them yes men. Yes. Yes.
Exactly. What else?
I put ODD.
ODD?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Oppositional defiance disorder.
Well, being an asshole.
That is funny. Anything else that you got to have on that list?
No value, my opinion, that they have their own way or opinion on that.
Yeah, so they know the answer, their answer, instead of being open-minded. Is that what you mean by that, Aki?
Yes.
Lack of eye contact.
Yeah. So body language, right? Good list. Any more? Just one more?
Lack of follow-ups or following through with what they said they're gonna do
Yeah.
over and over and over.
Yeah, that is absolutely frustrating. Okay, good list. So let me put this up on the wall here.
One more. They're unmotivated.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. Hold on. Okay, so that's our worst listener list. All right, let's talk about the best listeners. Hold on a second. Let me write that. What do the best listeners do?
They're learners.
Learners. And how do you know they're learners?
Well, because they love to learn. They ask for learning, they ask for material, they're always doing research, they're showing their research, their resource of how they got to X and Y. And they're eager. They literally say that give me more so I can learn more.
I love that. And I think one of the things that goes with that is asking questions, don't you?
Yep.
So asking clarifying questions, that's great. And that's how you learn. What else?
Just to follow up on that, I think they're able to articulate back to you what you just said and
Oh,
their content.
so important. So I'm just writing articulate back, but what's another way to say that?
Acknowledge what was said.
Or restate, acknowledge, restate, right?
They're engaging.
Engaging. And so what does engaging look like?
Back and forth candor. engagement, I mean, back and forth candor. They're just constantly engaging with you, talking, like repeating what you said, but also giving their own critical thoughts.
So it's a relevant conversation, right? I mean, it's going back and forth. And that also engaging to me also says good body language, eye contact, that sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that down for that. So eye contact, relevant discussion.
They're excited about the work.
Excellent. Excited.
I put down, like one of my best listeners in my office takes a lot of notes. And she'll engage a lot, takes a lot of notes, repeats back. So she's a really big note taker.
That's great.
Green's checklist is tied to that.
Take notes, checklist.
Just offers to do what you want them to do without you telling them.
So do we call that follow through?
Intuitive, would that be?
Okay.
Right.
That means they're really tuned into you, right, Kim?
Say that again?
They're really tuned into what you need.
Yes.
That's kind of a being present as well. Like that. Anything else that you need to add to this list?
Constructive feedback.
Constructive feedback. Yeah. Love that. Okay, if there's last one that you need to have on the list, what is it?
I'll put their analyzer type personality.
Analyzer.
Analyst.
I'm sure I spelled analyzer wrong, but how do you know that they're an analyzer?
Because they take those personality tests, and that's how they show up.
Does that necessarily mean that they're good a listener?
But they have those personalities have a hard time responding right away.
Because they're processing.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay, so here's my question. As you look at these two lists, if we did this with your team and they had your name on this, what list would you be on?
I'm a great listener.
The best listener list. Oh, I'm so glad to hear. I'm glad to hear that. Oh gosh. There we go.
That because I don't want to do their idea, then I'm not listening.
Oh,
Okay.
because their idea is so great.
Yeah.
Can we, Steve, what do you think? Should we take a little break right now?
Yeah, I think that'd be good. Let's take 10 minutes and we'll be back here in just 10 after 10 or well, 12 after 10.
12 after 10. All right.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. So comments, questions, emotional outbursts.
No emotional output so far.
All right.
We're on the same page.
Good.
Oh, we have a question.
Yeah, so did you present the same slide deck yesterday to the key group, or was that slightly different?
No, it's the same slide deck. Yes. And I promised Steve that I will send him the slide deck.
Thank you, yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes to listening, there's obviously passive listening, which is you identified thinking about what you're going to say next. And then Sage, you talked about being engaged, right? That's active listening. You're attentive, you're participative, you're seeking to understand. That's the asking clarifying questions. And so there's a couple of things that we can do, each of us, to be a better active listener. Number one, don't interrupt. That can be hard, especially if you have high extroversion. How many of you would consider yourself to be an extrovert? Sage, I bet you are. Yeah. Anybody else? Tom? Thomas, yeah. So here's the thing. When it comes to, it means that when we're talking, we're actually processing outside of our, when somebody asks us a question, we'll start talking. And people who have lower extroversion have that conversation inside their head. A lot of times when people take a moment to pause because they're having that conversation inside their head, it feels like that's an invitation for extroverts to start speaking. If you have low extroversion, I don't know if you've ever been in that processing mode and somebody jumps in and you're still thinking about what you're going to say next. I bet that's happened to you, hasn't it? So for those of us who have high extroversion, I want you to remember this acronym: W period, A period, I period, T period. Wait, why am I talking? And for those of you who have low extroversion, why aren't I talking? So think about this as just a 2 to 3 second pause. That's 3 seconds. I know it sounds like it's not very long, but just don't interrupt. And I think that's a great thing for you to do. Wait for the appropriate time to speak and understand we don't have to have all the answers. We don't have to do all the speaking. As a leader, we'll actually accomplish more when we speak less. We'll know more about what our team is thinking, what the problems are. And again, it doesn't feel like it's efficient because we're just usually about, hey, let's do this, 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 and this. Start asking questions, start asking your people to come up with ideas. It's a shift of mindset that will be so powerful. So let's talk about how to listen at the next level that we need to do to be a good coach. And that is asking questions. So if you'll turn to page 5 in your workbook, please. This is the next skill that we have to get really good at. Now, there's a couple of different types of questions you can ask. Anybody know the different types of questions that exist?
Probing questions?
Say that again, Kim.
Probing? Probing?
Probing. Oh, I got you. Yeah, that sounds like a medical term.
Oh.
So
Oh yeah, that's like open-ended.
open-ended. Excellent. And what's the other one then?
Direct.
Closed-ended. So we have open-ended and we have closed-ended. What's the difference?
One has a right answer and one doesn't have an answer.
Yes, no, or
What types of questions have you noticed I've been asking?
open.
Open-ended questions, if you look on your paper, start with what, how, when, where, who, why. Be careful with the why question. Anybody know why?
Can be interrogating or can be a little offensive.
Yeah. Yes, Aki, it can cause people to be defensive. Why do you think that? Or why did you say that? Right? It's more of a statement. So it's good as a follow-up question, but not as an initial question. So open-ended questions are important because you're going to get more information. Closed-ended questions are often the kinds of questions that we ask. Did you do X? Can you do Y? Have you? Could you? Would you? Should you? Do you think? Right? All of those are what we call closed-ended questions, and people will say yes, no, or I did this. Now, could somebody answer with an open-ended response? Yes, but the invitation is to give just a direct answer. Did you, in other words, you're leading people. Did you talk to that person? No, I didn't do that. Well, you're implying in your answer. It's like leading the witness in the court, right, Norman?
Yeah, go to court.
Delegate.
I'm a real estate lawyer.
Real estate lawyer. Yeah. You committed fraud on your mortgage application, didn't you? Instead of asking a more open-ended question, we want to get to a place where we really understand where they're coming from. So if you turn to the next page, just take a quick look at that. This is about getting data that you need to be a good leader and to coach your people. So the best types of questions to start with are the very most open-ended, which is a what question, or tell me more, or help me understand. And then you have a directed open-ended question such as where, how, who, where, and why. Closed questions then are great for commitment. And they are useful, but not until the end of the conversation. Sorry about this, you guys. I gotta. Okay. So now back to page 5. All right, I want you to notice that on page 5, we have several closed-ended questions. We have 5 of them. The first one says, we need to combine information from these 2 reports to send to accounting. Are you confident your report is correct? If someone says, yes, I am, how much information do you really have as to how confident they are, what their process was? There's not a lot of information there, is there, Kim? So, what's a better question that you could ask to get more information? Any suggestions?
What did you do to verify the accuracy?
Excellent. That invites a discussion. So I like that. That's good. That's an example. There's a lot of different ways you could ask that. That is one. So here's the assignment. What I'd like you to do is starting with Russell, Kim, and Aki, I want you to break up in groups of 3.
We have
Okay.
Corey here, Cody, you can see.
You got Cody here too? Oh, hey, Cody. I didn't even see you. It's like you didn't. I'm so sorry. I've been ignoring you. So glad that you're here. Okay, I'm adding you to the list. Okay, but would you just break them up into small groups of 3 for me?
Okay, yeah. So
yeah.
you 3, do you want to do it in top group? Okay, then you 3, and then here.
Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to pick 2 of these, just pick 2 of them, and together turn them into open-ended questions. Got it? Okay, I'll give you a couple minutes.
Yeah. So, when it comes to potential capital, yes, the shortest one. Where you found so go ahead.
Why do the first one? I'll do the second one.
Let's how about the second?
What are the issues you have today?
How would you say that?
What am I saying?
Third and fourth one?
Oh,
you're changing.
Yeah.
Okay, you're changing it to a question.
Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. What was the thing?
What are the issues we have with the new computer?
Yeah, I like the way it's going with that.
We need to change these questions to page 5 to open and questions. Using what, where, when, why.
Yeah, how about
Like this second one.
What how?
I can't get in, let me check you out.
Oh,
Let me do it. You do the third one, just change the third one into.
Are you?
yeah.
So, yeah, last would be like 1 year.
What do you think about, what are your observations?
More of a bad, right?
What about other things?
Yeah, that's good.
How would you
That's why you're a new problem.
How are the communications?
When you have a problem next time, how will you?
Yeah, or
When you have a problem with that department next time.
Yeah,
how will
how
you-
do we media?
What are you doing?
I was-
Yeah.
Hey, you know, I call someone, so,
What are you doing?
but,
Tell me about the.
yeah, worried about, you know, this happened.
Okay, 1 more minute.
But the question, or this is that.
The lady version.
The opposite of what.
You wanna do the last thing, right?
Do you think you should?
Every time they have it, it's like,
I go to. These are progressively like fire. Yeah.
How will you communicate changes to your employees?
So we should, we don't know about the
And then tell me about the question.
Yeah. I mean, it's like.
The guy really wants to know, I mean.
Help me understand how you.
Yeah, right. Forget to tell me next time, so yeah.
All right, start bringing those thoughts to a close. All right, everybody, I want you to take your right hand, pointer finger in the air. Pointer finger in the air.
Finger in the air.
Everybody, pointer finger in the air. Point at your group spokesperson. All right, who wants to go first?
We can go first.
All right. So Russell, which one did you do? Which one do you want to do?
Okay, so we'll do the second one.
Yep.
So initial phrase was, you have no problems with the new computer changes, right?
Right.
And our revision here is, what problems with the new computer changes have you experienced?
Excellent. Well done to keep that open, focused on them. That absolutely works. Thank you. Good job. We'll come back to you in a second. Who wants to go next?
Just go in order.
Okay. Yeah.
Same one, you have no problems with the new computer changes, right? Obviously closed-ended. We came up with, tell me about the new computer changes and how you like them.
Yeah. Okay. So that's an invitation to say what you liked, what you struggled with, to focus them in any area that you're interested in. That works as well. Tell me. That's a great job. Okay. Next.
We are gonna go with the last one. You should be able to communicate changes to your employees, right? And then our version is, what are you hearing from employees about the changes?
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So that's asking them about, just I like that. That works. I mean, there's so many ways that you can ask that. Last one.
So we just did the last one just now as well. But we used the bottom thing actually. Please help me understand how you will communicate changes to your employees.
Perfect. Perfect. Does anybody have a one that we didn't ask or that you would share with us, a different one that you did? Go ahead.
We were struggling with this one. Will you tell me the next time you have a problem with that department? I mean, it feels like really the guy wants to know, yes or no. Hey, is there a problem?
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like, I want to know about this. So how do we? Sometimes it's important to have a direct question, right? So is it a direct question?
It's actually not, and it is a difficult thing to do, but it's part of learning how to shift your thinking to that open-ended. What did you come up with?
Well, we kind of parked it there with maybe it's important to have an answer here. And keep it close end. Maybe it depends on the context. That's what.
So so what will you do the next time? How will you let me know the problems you're experiencing when you have a problem with that department next time? Or what will be your process to inform me when this problem arises with that department? It's again asking for their information, not just will you, right? Because that's like, yes, I will. Tell me how you're going to communicate, right? Again, it's the whole idea is it's very natural to be what you guys call direct, right? Will you, or could you, or should you, and all those kinds of things. That's not going to get you the information ultimately that we need. So this is more of a practice to get you in that mindset. It is a mindset shift to get more information from your people. As a leader in our company, it's usually our thought process to give information. We're changing that.
Turning it into a process question.
Yes.
And like a yes/no question or a issue question, but more of a process question.
That's correct. Yeah, and it's helping you shift that mindset to get into more of I want to be more of a coach and less of I'm here to tell you and direct you. Okay. And the reason we do that, coaching is not about giving people answers. And sometimes that's frustrating, right? You hire a coach and like, just tell me what the answer is. No. Because if I give you the answer, what's the problem with that?
They're gonna keep coming back.
Yes, that's one problem. But what if you go and do what I ask you to do and it doesn't work for you? then it's easy to blame me. There's no ownership. Sage talked about creating ownership. It is magic when your people own their outcomes. And whose ideas are people most committed to? Yours or theirs?
There's,
So you're giving people an opportunity to get more ownership by being committed to their ideas and their processes. I know what I'm talking about sounds so simple, but there's a lot to what I'm teaching you, and it's causing you to hopefully look at things differently. Anyway, how did this go for you? Was it easy? Was it a struggle? What'd you notice? Kim, what do you think? I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I don't think it's difficult. I think we just have to think about it before, because it's so easy to ask a closed-ended question. But
Yes, and that is very, very normal. For me, this is so unnatural. Now, I've been practicing this for years, so it's now very natural for me, but it wasn't initially. And because I'm very much, my behavioral type is very much a command and control style of leader. And that's terrible for creating ownership. I've experienced that. And so I speak to you from experience. Letting go of that control takes practice in these types of environments. That's one of the huge values of Vistage and working with Thomas and Steve, is that you are given this opportunity to practice, but it's going to take practice because it's not going to come natural. Any other thoughts? Okay, let's do the next exercise. Excuse me, turn to page 7. We're going to practice restating. We're going to ask open-ended questions. We're going to listen to restate and listen for meaning. So I need you to follow all of these steps. And for some of you, that's going to feel a little clunky, but just do it. Trust me. Okay, so Steve, will you pair everybody up into combinations of 2?
We'll just start here. Why don't we go 2 and then,
When it comes back in.
yeah, okay, so that's good. Okay, we got the pairs.
Okay, I need one of you to be person A and one of you to be person B.
All right. Perfect.
Okay, I have an observation to make. How many of you decided what letter the other person should be? Where else does that show up in your life? And if you allowed somebody to choose for you, where else does that show up in your life? No judgment, just curiosity. All right. Person A, you're going to start, okay? Step number 1, you are going to take those 3 statements under participant A, and you're going to turn them into open-ended questions. So let's do this first one together. You like some things about your job and turn that into an open-ended question. How would you change that?
What are some things you like about your job?
Brilliant. Okay. Step 2, person B answers that. Step 3, person A restates what they just said. Okay, this is the exercise. And then if they say yes, that's correct, then person A, you're going to ask them your own follow-up question on whatever they said. Okay, so you're going to do that 3 times, and then you're going to switch, and then person B is going to do the same things for those 3 statements. Any questions about this assignment? You've got 5 minutes. Go.
Okay. How do you feel about it? Like you, that's
So you like that it gives you enough time?
Yeah.
Wait, right now.
But in a couple of days I'll get to it. A lot of things that you will get to me.
what you're saying.
Well, you go to the next question.
Yeah.
The next question. Probably.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, like you'll give me budget, like our day, or like my day, you know. I visit my mom that day, so it's just a shot.
So, missed out on your muscles. Was I carried?
No, you can not days and things like that. I think it's good sometimes, it'll be like, $8, and, you know, so I'm just wondering what. But I might have some questions, but it's already been like, or they fix my head, or, like.
I already forgot about it.
Yeah, it seems like.
Give it to me.
Yeah.
What things do you consider?
The thing is that people are
You know, just like after that.
Very much. Pushing myself out of
Yeah. Yeah, you guys should do that. When I come back to my mom, not. Yeah, I get it. We're gonna do this.
His mom said okay.
His mom might never be I just think that.
So I'll give you the week.
No mom.
All right.
Over time, it's found.
Hey, I just want to just like what.
Okay, how close are they to finishing, Steve?
I give him another minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I can.
I move it in.
Where are you? Like we get it or.
Information via has like today is much. Like anyone else.
No. Seems like, you know, sometimes I would like.
Why did you?
Yeah, so like my wife or. We're actually.
But really, what do you?
I understand.
That's one time, I will literally go down different.
Well, it's actually not. What is this? Yeah, we can't hire a lot of people.
You get things done.
Yeah. You'll get back to the Things are gonna get a little bit busier.
All right, let's start bringing those thoughts to a close.
I have to still eat.
Okay, guys, 30 more seconds. Why did I guess everybody's gonna call? Or are the people?
No, I'm just
By asking them, it sounds amazing.
Okay, can I have everybody's attention, please? Come on back here. Hey, great discussion. So let's talk about what you experienced.
Okay, guys, why don't you bring it back in?
What did you notice?
Okay, guys. We have it back. Guys. Okay.
Great discussion. What did you notice?
Observations.
It's hard to, if they give a long response, it's hard to repeat back everything we did.
So what did you do, Norman?
I did the best I can and then waited for the person to correct me.
Excellent. Okay. What else did you experience? What did you notice?
The more organized the speaker, the easier it is to recite what it is that they told you.
Okay.
And also, there were unexpected things that I learned from the process that, I would not have if it was a closed-ended question.
Such as?
Perhaps like, his frame of mind in terms of why he likes to do certain things. Versus like, otherwise I would not have that insight if I just asked a straight question.
And how does that help you as a coach and a mentor?
It gives me a better idea of really what motivates this person to do the kind of work that they do and what they don't like. So I can know what the obstacles are in getting them to do certain things.
And to have that type of conversation means that you got to slow down and be present, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. What else did you notice?
Yeah.
I think when you ask the open-ended questions, it just gets deeper, like you just get more information and you become more connected and you just find out more. So
Isn't that great? And for those of you that were listening, I heard Norman say it was hard to listen to if there was a long story, right? Do you have to feedback everything that they said? I mean, you can restate it in your own terms, right? You can summarize. So what I heard you say is X. What's the point of doing that, do you think?
Let them know that you're listening. You hear what
Yes.
Or
Absolutely let you know that they're listening. Yep.
We'll put them in the comfort so that they can divulge more, get more.
Yeah.
Good.
trust, creates trust.
Say that again. I didn't hear that.
Creates trust.
How does that create trust?
Like when people are comfortable sharing something and they feel they're being listened to, create that comfort level that now they want to share more and potentially say things that maybe they wouldn't say before in close-ended questions, right? It's like what Kim said, it's like peeling the onion. Right?
Yeah. I like that, Danny. I think that's really good. What does it do for you as a listener to put yourself in a frame of mind that you have to repeat back?
Makes it easier for me to create that follow-up question.
Yeah.
The follow-up question just closed at that point.
And why do you think that is? Why did that follow-up question flow?
you're engaged and you're actively listening. And
Yeah, I mean, you're present in that moment, right? You're not thinking about your answer. You are listening for meaning. Stephen Covey in Seven Habits, seek first to understand before, you ask people to understand you. I didn't say that exactly right, but the point is that when I know some of you may have found that process of restating annoying, and a lot of people just bypass that because, like, well, I'm not going to do that. Well, I'm forcing you to do that because it causes you to be present. I need to repeat back what they're saying, and it gets you in a frame of mind to help coach people because you are in the moment right now. And that's why asking that follow-up question becomes supernatural because you're in the moment, you're engaged with them. So that's great insight. Anything else?
I'm wondering, how can we get employees that are first before at listening to repeat back without it being demeaning?
That's a great question. So what I'm sorry I'm repeating because I want to make sure it's hard for me to hear sometimes. What I heard you say seriously is that how do you get your employees to repeat back when you're talking to them? Is that what you asked, Norman?
Yeah, yes.
That's a great question. What do you all think?
I just asked, what did I say?
Yeah. It's like you're talking to your kids. Okay, look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. What did I just say?
But so I was trying to get my department managers to do that with each other, but they feel uncomfortable asking for that repeat, for that understanding. Because they think it's demeaning.
Yeah, I think that's not an unfounded concern. And so I have an idea of how I would do that, but I'd love to hear what you guys think. How could you set it up so that it doesn't feel demeaning, so that it's more of a training opportunity?
Well, Jason has meetings with his management team, and so I think in that context, you can just set it up as a protocol. This is what we do whenever we're talking about issues. This is the process. Make it a process as opposed to something that's offensive.
I love that because now it's not just, hey, are you listening? I need you to repeat back to me because that's condescending, right? And we want to avoid obviously being condescending. So let's try to make it a process. I think that's a great idea. What else?
You can try to turn it into their own idea by saying, hey, what are the challenges that you've encountered in executing some of the things that we talked at the meeting? I can't remember. I don't always understand what they say. Well, then what suggestions do you have? And then try to coach them into giving active listening prompts so that it becomes their idea.
That is a great suggestion. And honestly, Norman, if you just, there's a great book. There's a couple of series of this book called The Great Game of Business. I honestly believe in telling your people what you're doing to them. Like if you just start going to people and saying, hey, I'm not going to answer your questions anymore. They come to you and you're like, I need you to come up with your own ideas. There's going to be a little bit of a culture shock or rebellion, right? If you just go back immediately and start saying, I'm not going to answer people's questions, they're going to think you're a jerk. On the other hand, if you say, hey, one of the things that I'd like to have happen is I'd really like to hear more from you on your ideas and get more input from you. So as a result, as we go forward in our work together, when you come to me with questions, you'll find that I might ask you your opinion. And so I'd love for you to be prepared for that when that happens. So it's like you're letting them know that that's going to happen. And so there's a way that you could do that in that conversation, Norman, where you say, listen, one of the things that we'd like to do is to increase our level of effective communication. And that's kind of bringing in what the other gentleman, I apologize, is that Ricky that you said you were talking about the process?
Well, that's Norman. I'm Jason.
Jason, will you guys straighten me out sooner than that? Norman.
And we're moving seats too, just
Sorry about that. So, Norman's suggestion to have that process, but you just say, listen, what I'd like to do is a part of improving our communication is I'd really love to hear back what you think that I'm asking. And what that's going to cause you to do is to be, a little more focused on what we're saying. So we're going to start with that today. And I think if you let them know that you're doing that, it doesn't come across as condescending. What do you think, Jason?
Yeah, I think I've done that, but the mistake I made now that you taught me is, they didn't want to do it to a manager that's underneath the department manager. So it was discussed with department managers, but not with their staff. And that was the issue. I got to correct.
So
It needs to be kind of like company wide where everybody understands this is the way we want to operate so we don't have miscommunication.
yeah, and we're doing this to improve communication because what we've found is sometimes we ask people to do things and they think and we hear, we see head nods and we say yes, 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 but we're not closing the loop. So one of the things we're going to do is X. Okay, helpful?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, now we got to move on. We got a lot to do. What do we have? Hour and 10 minutes? Good. Next, we're on page 8. How many of you have emotional employees? And sometimes what happens is they come to you with a lot of emotion and you don't really know what it is that they're saying. Because, they'll say something like the conflicts we have between our two departments are stupid and unnecessary, right? And they're coming to you from this emotional perspective. When somebody is emotional like that, let's just think about how our brains work. We have a couple parts of our brain. We have the limbic system, which is the reactionary brain, including the amygdala, and that's the fight or flight part of our brain, right? It usually is the one that takes over when we're emotional. And we have our thinking brain, the neocortex. I'm not talking about the part of the brain that, the cerebellum, that part that keeps us alive when, we're breathing and reflexes. I'm just talking about the emotional and the thinking brain. So when we're frustrated, when we're stressed, we're usually not thinking. We're reacting. That's why we call it the reactionary brain. When someone is in that state of mind, one of the worst things that you can do is make a statement. Like you need to do this, or you need to do that, or you need to calm down. How many of you, when you're frustrated, when someone says that really works for you? Exactly. So one of the things that will really help you improve your emotional intelligence and theirs is to ask an open-ended question. I'll give you an example. If if you have I know the weather in Hawaii is usually around 78 to 84 degrees, right? But let's say it's super rainy outside and you're taking your kid outside and they're like, you need to put on your rain jacket. And they're like, I don't want to put on. They're freaking out, right? If you interrupt that pattern, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? It totally gets them focused in their thinking brain and off of that emotional response. Um, we just had this with my 6-year-old grandson. We were just in Disneyland for 3 days with 4 of my grandkids, and we were in California Adventure. Had anybody ever been to the California Adventure and ride the Grizzly Rapids? Well, you get to this place right before there's this big fall, and the whole time he was scared. Is there going to be a big fall? And we were trying to walk him through it. Well, we got to the big fall, and the ride stopped right at the fall, and he was just freaking out because it's going to be terrible. He was right behind him, and so we did everything we could to distract his focus on that. It's called a pattern interrupt, and asking questions is a great way to do that. So when you have an emotional employee, your friend as a leader is to just be prepared with, tell me more, what's going on, what do you mean, and get them to be able to open up. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go back into those groups of 3, and you'll notice there's 8 different scenarios in your workbook, right? So for example, the conflicts we have between our 2 departments are stupid and unnecessary. Which 2 departments are usually in conflict in your company?
Sales and operation.
Always. Every organization, they have goals that sometimes are in conflict naturally. So that can cause some strong emotions to come out. Bruce acts like a jerk. I won't work with him. There's a whole bunch of scenarios here. I want you, of your groups, to choose one of these. And I want you to then, as a group, come up with a couple of open-ended questions. I am going to be the emotional employee. You're going to be my manager. Your job is to find out what's going on with me and what needs to happen. What, in terms of what needs to change, what behaviors need to change, what do I need to do? Your job is to coach me, okay? So I want you to work for a couple of minutes, come up with a few questions. Just choose one because we don't have a lot of time. I want to actually put all of this together into practice before we wrap up.
Break into your sanctuary.
I'll pick it up. Three.
Which one of these resonate? Yes. Just take it all. Which one's part of it? Rational thought.
No, I don't know, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Very instant.
But I was thinking of the
Yeah, careless workers.
Yeah.
What you're saying is that the policies and procedures are stupid. Be less stupid. Be like that, you know, this page.
Let's understand why we need to write policy procedures when we're approaching the running of phone.
I was,
Yeah, she
was. Right, it's fall.
I want to understand what should happen.
Yeah. And then give me an example. Give me an example of why.
What is the above the line? You know, thing with giving some. It sounds like that's what the department managers or.
Why do I gotta have a birthday force?
I and you got.
What are some examples?
Upgrade, yeah, right, like a.
Yeah, it's a manager.
So they. Yeah. You know, the manager doesn't necessarily have to. It's like, I don't want to pick my time waiting to.
Yeah.
Until they have to trade someone.
Got it.
Very consider.
At least you got it.
It's not his job to turn it around.
How would we then?
What kind of training program?
How would we figure that question? Do we decide?
Training.
Help me understand. Help me understand.
It's gonna be about the stupid part.
Yeah.
We run a good option. First.
Yeah, how much we're gonna say.
Let me understand why we have. So you're like, take on all the negative ones, yeah, maybe you got married. But before that, I guess what's the art where you come out from the side?
We'll just get a.
Well, can you tell me understand why you think?
Actually, but so we're the CEO.
Yeah.
This is the department manager.
It's emotional.
Okay, so then we have to, we're asking a follow-up open and.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you tell me understand why?
Okay, one more minute. Let's wrap this up.
What do you think we can? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. It's gonna be free.
Let me understand why you think it's unnecessary to have to receive responsibility.
Who's the boss?
Yeah, so I'm still asking the manager, why do you, help me understand why it's not necessary to have.
Why was one reaching that? Why were we doing that?
Yeah, I am. And he's like, I don't like it. Why do we gotta do it? So now my response is, are we supposed to make the response from my staff, person name, our staff? Yeah. Right, so help me understand why you think it's unnecessary.
Yeah, that's good. What was
Yeah,
your
okay.
question?
Yeah.
And then that's one question. If I wrote that one, what was what you said? How late?
Yeah, let's walk down the.
They're gonna be like doing this every day.
All right, everybody, point your finger in the air.
Yeah.
Point your finger in the air, please. Hey, point your finger in the air. Point at one person in your group, please. Okay, whoever has the most fingers pointing at him gets to choose the spokesperson. There you go. You got to change it up, man. Keep people on their toes. Okay.
No.
Who would like to go first? Who's going to be deal with the emotional employee? Me.
Yeah. Wrote it. Please help me understand.
Come on, who's doing it? Issa, is that you?
We can start from the table, right?
Issa?
We go first.
You're going to do it, Aki?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay,
Cody's
which one did you choose?
gonna go first.
So we picked number 5. So people are careless about their work. I always must cover and fix problems.
Ah, okay, so I'm coming into you and I say to you, Cody, you know what? I'm so tired of people being careless about their job. I always cover up for and have to fix problems because people are not doing their jobs and it's got to stop.
What are some examples of the recent problems that you were pulled into?
You know, here's the thing. We've got project-driven deadlines and people make commitments in our meetings and they don't follow through. And so I end up jumping in because, you know, I just don't want our customers to not have their products on time. And so, yeah, I mean, it's very clear that people make commitments and then they don't follow through. And that's just not acceptable. I mean, what's going to happen if nobody does their job the way they're supposed to? And I just don't want that to happen.
Sounds to me like you're taking the responsibility of everybody else's problems and trying to make them yours. What do you think are some resources that we could bring in to make the team stronger?
Well, you know, that's a great question, and I kind of think that's your job as the CEO here to get people to take more responsibility. That's why I'm talking to you because, you know, I'm just kind of tired of it. I can't keep it up anymore.
So every time that we push down something from the top, everybody always pushes back. And so we like to get everybody's feedback to understand, you know, what they might think is a good plan for us to do and not just have to listen to us, do as we say.
Yeah, I think that's great. And in this case, I think that, you know, maybe you could train people on following through with their commitments.
So I think maybe we can all get together in the next all hands meeting and we can have this discussion about people holding their commitment and sticking to their word.
Okay, so how did this end up going?
Feels like the same conversations I have all the time.
You have this conversation. So notice what was I trying to do as the employee?
Give you a monkey.
Always trying to push a monkey.
I was trying to give you a monkey, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And how did it end up? You basically said, here's the plan. We're going to do this, right? And so you kind of gave in after a while, like, I'm done with this conversation.
Yeah.
It happens, doesn't it? It's like, okay, I want to get this guy out of here. Like, do you understand what my issue is? To coach me, what's the issue? What's really going on here?
Sometimes I think the employees just want attention and they want
Okay.
that conversation to drive some attention to get the kicking and screaming out of their system.
Sometimes they do. That's not my problem. What's my problem?
He's not
Do you
holding
know?
his staff accountable.
Say that again.
he's not holding his staff accountable. And so he wants to push the blame off of his poor performance as a manager onto his CEO.
Yeah, that's not my problem, Jason. Why would I take on other people's jobs and not talk to them about their lack of performance? What kind of personality does that?
Control freak,
Say that again.
control freak.
No,
You wanna be seen.
no, I actually don't. That's why I'm coming to you. I'm bitching. I'm bitching behind closed doors. I'm actually conflict avoidant. I have a little bit of a savior complex, right? Because there are people on your teams that don't say no ever. They just do stuff and they don't push back. And there are people that have this little savior complex that feel like they have to do things when other people don't do them. But then they complain at the water cooler instead of talking to the person that's actually got a problem. How many of you know people like that? That's a very specific personality. But you don't know that, right? So you don't know and so what happens is if you don't figure that out with me, even though you came up with a solution that we're going to talk about it as a team, you haven't really fixed my issue. Do you understand what I'm talking about? So a big part of delegating is helping people be self-aware and to start solving their own problems. That's ultimately what we want to have. That's a deeper issue than saying, all right, we're just going to figure out why this person is taking on other people's jobs. Is this helpful?
As you don't want to get into personal problems.
Sorry, say that again.
We don't want to get involved in people's personal problems.
Yeah, well, and people have different issues, and this isn't a personal issue. This is actually their personal behavioral profile is impacting their job satisfaction. It's actually causing them to take accountability from the rest of the team. And even though they think they're doing it for the right reason, it's causing harm because they're stepping in and doing things that other people aren't stepping up. But part of the challenge is they're not willing to hold their team members accountable. When you have a high performing team, you have not everybody. You do not have to do all the accountability. How many of you ever played sports before? You know you have accountability when team members can call each other out and people don't get defensive. It's not just the coach that has to call people out. That's a great place to be as a team, isn't it? And that's what we want. If you're the only one that is holding people accountable, that's not sustainable as a company. And Sage, I don't know if you have this dynamic with your team, but do you have to hold everybody accountable, or are they doing it for each other?
They're doing it for each other for the most part. But I mean, we still double check, triple check, of course.
Sure. But isn't that nice that you have other people that are duplicating your ability to hold them accountable?
Yes. It took time though. It's not easy.
Do you remember I talked to you about Ralph Stair? He talked about it was a 10-year process. I want you guys to read that report. It's not going to happen right away. There's no question about it. What I'm teaching you is simple. Does not mean it's easy.
50 years.
Yeah.
I have a question on that person that you were acting like real quick. How would you then handle that situation or that type of employee with the savior complex?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would just get really clear and I would just say, hey, Spencer, what's really going on here? What's causing you to, I hear you saying that you feel like you need to take the job for everybody else, but why is that happening? What have you done to have conversations with them for not following through? And why is it that you feel like that's your responsibility? Now, I appreciate you coming to me, but what I'm noticing is that you're avoiding having difficult conversations with your peers. What's that about? You see what I'm doing? I'm probing. So going back to Kim's word of probing, right?
I feel like a lot of times as employees also like bring the customer into the picture to say, well, if I don't do it, then who's going to take care of that customer? Is it going to be
That's exactly right. And so what they're doing is that they're trying to also make themselves feel like, more important.
Yeah.
And it's almost a passive aggressive behavior, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so call that out. and just name it. So it really feels to me like you're using the situation to actually justify why you jump in and do that. What would happen if you didn't do it? Well, then the customer would suffer. Okay. In the short term, that's true. What would the consequence of that be? Well,
In that case, they're using it kind of as a defense mechanism,
yeah.
Yeah,
right? Like we're trying to get deep inside why,
yeah, that's always the like wall that comes up quick.
yeah.
Yeah. What would happen if you didn't jump in and the customer was upset? What would happen to that person who was responsible? There would be a consequence, wouldn't it? You see, right now, what I'm noticing is that you're jumping in and you're creating an environment that's not sustainable because I can tell that you're stressed out and anxious and people aren't picking up what they're supposed to do. And I know that you want me to jump in and correct that. But is the problem really with that or is the problem with you? Are you, do you see how I'm just asking questions and I'm causing them to think? That's coaching versus saying, okay, what I need you to do is stop doing that and come up, I really want you to start getting your people to start thinking. That's what I said in the beginning. We want our people to be critical thinkers. And right now in our work environment, it's all about productivity, efficiency. And so we don't understand sometimes that getting people to think critically is actually going to create more efficiency and productivity. But it takes time and it's not easy. Great questions. Um, I'm going to skip doing any other comments because I want to get into the coaching methodology and do something else.
What, go ahead.
No, you mentioned something about think vertically. What is that?
Say that again, Isar.
I heard the word thinking vertically. Get the people, get the team members to think vertically. Did you say that or
I did not. I did not say think vertically. Critically, I said.
Okay, all right, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, critical thinking is what I want them to think instead of just coming to you to solve the problems. That's abdication. Um, that's them saying that's not my job, right? Well, so many people have an employee mentality.
That's
I
right.
want to change from this employee mentality to an ownership. Even though they don't own the company, we want to create an ownership of their responsibility.
Question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Russell here. I've,
Yeah.
based on, it's funny we landed on this question and then your feedback and the character trait that you embodied when you were responding to Cody. What's interesting is that type seems to be a common theme amongst this group. And my question is there a tolerance level that is reasonable that we should hold in mind? Because watching that role play, I'm putting names and faces. This is it, right?
Russell, listen, I'll tell you what we're going to do. I'm going to do something different than I did yesterday. I'm going to do a behavioral assessment with you guys. I am a behavioral analyst, and I have an incredible tool that I use. We didn't do it, but I will give that to you if you want. I have one of the things that I do is I coach people based on their personality. And what's interesting is the personality that I was embodying in this is one of the nicest people. They actually can be some of the greatest leaders, but they're also very conflict avoidant. They're very team oriented. But when there's disharmony, when there's difficult conversations, they procrastinate difficult conversations longer than they should. So those behaviors build up and they start building up resentment. And a lot of times they quit your company and you don't even know why. Okay. Because they're not willing to come to you and have that conversation. And it's very insidious because of that. Even though it's the nicest of the behaviors, they're the people that don't speak up in the meeting when they disagree. Instead, they go to the water cooler and have a meeting after the meeting with one or two people, and they bitch about the fact that they didn't like what you said in the meeting. That is a terrible style of that creates dysfunction on the team. Now, my style of behavior, high dominance, creates a lot of dysfunction as well. But it's very overt. It's a command and control. It's not under the table, behind the scenes. Every style has its strengths and weaknesses. And when you know what those are, you can coach people very specifically. And when you know what yours are, you can get out of your own damn way. Sorry for saying that. So often we're in our own way a lot of the time. And that takes some really soul searching evaluation. And we'll take a couple 5 minutes to do just a fun process if you guys don't mind. Okay. But let's get through this before we get to that. All right. Let's talk about coaching people now. So, step one is stop taking monkeys so that we have more time to coach. Step two, we need to listen more. We need to be good at asking open-ended questions. We need to be able to deal with emotional people. Now we're going to put all of this together into a very specific type of coaching. And that coaching is about getting people to do the work. Okay. And so this is not every type of coaching. This is what I want you to learn how to do. Facilitating a solution-driven conversation. So, Russell, to your point, this is you could have a conversation with this individual to help them change their behavior. Does that make sense? That's what coaching is. And once you've identified what that problem is, you can have this conversation to help them fix that. That's delegation. If they're not achieving their goals, coming up with a plan to change, that's delegation. But it does it in a way that creates accountability, that creates ownership. Now, I'm going to teach you 6 non-coaching processes so that you know to avoid those before we get into the coaching methodology. Number 1, this is what we call the ostrich theory, and you can be following along in your workbook on page 9. The ostrich theory is we do nothing if there's a problem, usually for about 6 months until the pressure grows too great. The number 2 non-coaching option is the person is told to self-correct. Hey, this is the problem that you're having. Go fix it. Well, the problem with this is if they knew how to fix it, they wouldn't be a problem. Number 3, persuading. A person is told that they have a problem, and then they're told how I would fix it. What's the problem with that?
No buy-in.
No buy-in. Exactly. It's your idea, not theirs. And we want it to be their idea. The group grope. This is famous. You got a couple people on the team that are screwing up. So you bring the entire team together. And everyone is told, this is going on and it needs to stop. Well, the people who don't do this, how do they feel?
Why do I have to do this?
Yeah, they feel totally, what the heck? I'm doing my job. I'm getting beat up. And it's even worse for the people that have the problem because they're like, wow, I guess this is a bigger problem I thought. I'm not the only one. It's just a terrible way to manage people. Don't do the group grope. Talk to people that have the problem. Announcing is a non-coaching option. I state firmly what the problem is and tell everybody how to fix it, usually a company, or else, no more ping pong or whatever it is I know you guys wouldn't do that, but some people do the ultimatums. The final non-coaching option is we just fire people because they didn't change. Usually that's a failure on our part to train, develop, and correct people appropriately. Why? We're too busy. We just expect them to do it. We tell them to fix it, and they don't do it. All right. Now, the coaching methodology that I have starts on page 11. The entire back of the manual is several different ways of listing the coaching methodology. And I'm going to go through it with you, and then we're going to role play and practice it, okay? All right. Step number 1. This is what I call IHOT, okay? I have observed that. When you have an issue that you need to address with somebody, so Russell, kind of going back to our discussion, Russell, I've called you in here to have a conversation with you because I have observed that you tend to take on a lot of people's work and then complain about it. And I want to have a conversation with you, right? And we're not causing any labels. We're not saying it sounds like you don't have a savior complex or whatever the issue is, right? If I were to say, Steve, listen, I called you in my office today to have a conversation with you because in the last month you've been late 5 times, and as a supervisor on our team, that sends a bad signal to the rest of the team that they don't need to be here on time. Is that true? Have you been late 5 times in the last month? And Steve, if he's honest, he's going to own that. If not, I have receipts, right? I'm not going to make I'm not going to say, hey, it sounds like you don't care about your job. Just be very, very factual in whatever the behavior is. Focus on the behavior. And you must get agreement. If you don't get agreement or acknowledgement that that's happening, you're going to get stuck and you're going to go round and round in your conversation. It's not going to go anywhere. Very, very important. Okay. Step number one, I've asked you here to meet with me to discuss what I have observed is blank. Everybody good with that? Okay. Whether it's you're not following through or you make a commitment and you haven't and you did specifically committed on this project here and you didn't follow through. And it's very cordial, you're not accusatory. We want to help them solve the problem. Step number two, this is where the open-ended questions come in, right? Tell me what's going on. What's happening? Steve, what's causing you to be late? And he gives me his excuse, whatever it is. The car broke down. It's in the shop. I'm now having to take the bus. Takes me longer to get here. And that's really been hard. Plus, I got to take my kids to school or nanny, whatever it is. The nanny quit. So now I have to take my kids to school. It's causing me to be late. So you figure out what's really going on. And it might take a minute or two. And that leads us to step number three. Okay, I understand that the car breaking down or taking your kid to school is really, really important. However, I'm going to talk to them about the impact on the team. When you're not here on time, it impacts the team and it sets a precedent that causes other people to show up late. So my question to you, Steve, is what are you going to do until you find a new nanny or whatever the situation is to make sure that you're here on time? Well, I'll just try harder. Like, that's not really a plan, is it? Okay, I appreciate that. But why don't you tell me what you could do to alleviate this situation so it's not a problem for you? Well, Spencer, would it be okay if instead of working 8 to 5, that I work from 8:30 to 5:30 until I find a nanny? Well, that's fine with me, but how are you going to handle that expectation with your crew? Well, I can let them know what the situation is and that I'm temporarily shifting my start time to 8:30 and make sure that they're still here on time and that I'm following my I'm being on punctual as well based on a situation. Okay. Well, then that step you agree to that plan. Is there anything I can do to help you with that? By when are you gonna have that conversation with your team? We'll have that conversation with them tomorrow. Excellent. And then that leaves us to step number 4. We agree on the solution. We determine who's going to do what. And then step 5, you follow up. Okay. And a week from now, I just check in with you. How's it going? How's your team responding? Are they being on time? Excellent. Great. Great job. We recognize them when things are improved. And if there's still a problem, we start over with that 5-step process. That is going through this super quickly. Any question about this 5-step process? Okay. Are you ready? Are you ready to actually put this to work?
Absolutely.
All right.
What's the 2-minute version of this?
What, say that again?
What's the 2-minute version of this?
It literally takes 2 minutes if you do it the right way. It really does. Here's the problem. When you do it the first time, it's going to take you 15 minutes and you're going to totally freak out and give up. But we're going to do that right now. So I need a volunteer, somebody who is willing to take the leadership role to follow this process, because you can use your workbook. You got it right here. I'm going to give you a scenario, but I need 2 volunteers, somebody who's willing to take feedback from everybody. I know you guys love doing that in front of each other, but the person who does it is going to learn the most.
2 volunteers, not everybody at one. Sorry.
All right,
We have one.
Isar, do you want to be the manager or are you going to be the employee?
I'll be the employee.
There you go. He volunteered first.
And we need one other?
Jason, everyone, I'm you.
I'm the manager. Jason, all right.
Jason, okay. So Jason, I'm going to put your scenario, I'm going to put your scenario up on the screen and I want you to read it. Isar, I need you to call me. Okay. I'm going to tell you your scenario. Here, my phone number, I'm going to put it in the chat. My phone number is 702-807-4698.
702-807-4698.
Yeah, it'll probably go to voicemail. That's okay. If it does, I'll call you right back.
Right.
So call me and okay. Don't look at his thing. I'm gonna put it up on the screen. It's not perfect because we're not in the same room together. Okay, let me share yours. Let's see here. Supervisor. Okay, here's the leader role. Jason, this is your scenario, okay? Let's just see here. Is that your number 808?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm calling you back. Okay, I'm gonna put this on mute so that no one can hear us. Hold on here. How do I do that? Hold on. I need to stop. Oh, I can do it right here. I can.
Yeah. Let me take notes here. Oh, wow. That is.
That's the hardest part.
It is.
Wow. Nothing I haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Involve a couple of transgenders or something.
Oh,
I'm
geez.
on it.
They're the curveballs, guys, you know?
Okay.
What was the last news that they were kind of,
Some relative or cousin or,
my brother-in-law?
yeah.
I thought the farmer brother-in-law, so I've been there.
You hired?
So, my dad.
Tony, we should talk a little bit more about that situation. You know, the person that like always does it.
Oh.
The neighbors, if
To the TV.
you just think that. That was six times, just like,
Just basically take a look.
whatever, right?
Yeah, in some cases though, it's get to be like the other, employee, they're like trying to cover their tracks by making everybody else's problems. They just.
We did that yesterday.
The group is like, no, you keep messing stuff up, and that's why we have to do all this. But they don't wanna be in that room, right? They're always the attention.
Oh, you know, I know. But if you truly have someone that feels responsible for everything, that's it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't wanna demotivate them either, right? Like, you might, okay, well, next time I'm gonna let it go.
Yeah. Like, we have one like that, she's consistent, but it's like, it's just her and her boss constantly clashing, because sometimes he doesn't do stuff that she tells him to do. Right, and he's like, well, can you just like help me out, right? It's just like, okay. It's like, okay, let's work together. Okay, work, like.
Yeah, but my head up. But my mouth. Maybe it gets on.
It was a given.
You're paying attention. Yes, there is. Alright, thank you.
All right, Jason, are you ready?
Yes.
Where's some filters?
Jason, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so have you got the scenario and you've got your workbook in front of you to have the conversation with Isar?
Yes.
Okay, now everybody, do you need me to leave the your role up on the screen, or can I close that out?
I can leave it on. I have a question.
Yes.
The second part says your supervisor has talked to you as well as HR. You mean my
Yeah.
supervisor has talked to you?
Yes. So you're a leader of a region. He's one of your. So Isar is one of your supervisors that reports to you. You have several of them, but your boss has talked to you. You know, does that make sense? And HR has talked to you as well.
Okay, got it.
Now Isar is supposed to ignore all that, not know that that's what you're talking about.
Okay. Tell me when.
All right. Good. Okay, now the rest of us, here's what I want you to do. I want you to listen very closely to Jason. And this is how we're going to give feedback. What did he do well? Let's focus on that first. And then what could he have done differently as it relates to everything that we've been practicing so far? Okay, so we're just going to do did wells, do differentlys. And Jason, I may stop you, but just do your best, man. Go for it. See what happens.
Sorry, thanks for coming in to meet with me today. In this meeting, I just want to cover something that HR and my CEO have talked about. And you can just get your feedback on what you think. Yeah. So what I have observed is that even though I've only been here for 2 months, so that's why I kind of need your help to help me understand. What I've observed is turnover has been really high, and the employees that have been leaving have been saying that part of the reason was, or most of the reason was from your behavior being maybe too direct, too tough on them, too strict. I'm not sure. Can you help? Can you help me understand what you think is going on?
That's weird. I was thinking that we're gonna talk about something different, that maybe I'm doing such a good job with them and, I'm supervising them. My job is to make sure they know how to do their jobs and, so I've been spending a lot of time with them, actually, every individual one of them and really laying the land so they do a good job. I thought I was gonna get promoted for that. So, but it's kind of a surprise to me.
What has your employees been, what kind of feedback have they been giving you regarding this issue?
I felt like they like what I was telling them and how to do their jobs and they know what to do now because I spend time with them literally. My goal is to make sure they know how to do their jobs well and I feel like they're getting that information. Like they never told me any of this that I'm being taught them.
Any other thing you can help me understand?
I was told that, if I do my job right and, and I make sure everybody else under me does their job right and I get promoted. So.
What do you think could be, for the people that have left, what have they told you the reasons for leaving or what kind of issues have with them before they left?
Well, they left, so I didn't get a chance to talk to them.
HR didn't take the interview for all of them. What have HR told you so far?
I haven't talked to HR. They never got to me. They never got back to me, or they never have a conversation.
Okay, let me look into why HR hasn't.
Okay, let's stop for just a second. Jason, how's the conversation going?
I've seen these before.
You want to say that again?
I've been in these conversations before.
Yes, and how's it going?
total denial. It's normal.
Yeah.
It's
It's
a
kind of going, it's kind of going in a circle, isn't it?
Yeah, these are the employees that think they're the greatest thing, and everybody else is not working as hard as them.
So let's give feedback. So how's he doing so far? What's he doing well, everybody? Kind of give Jason some feedback on what you like.
Giving him space.
I think you're building enough information from him to make a better case again.
Okay. Oh, we're building a case. That sounds like a,
Help me understand and, even though like, telling you're wrong.
Yeah.
So you are like more like, help me to understand, tell me the, help me, almost like a really humble heart going on.
yeah.
He doesn't go on the defensive.
So, and he's doing a good job asking open-ended questions. Really proud of you for doing that, Jason. What could he do differently? Where is he getting stuck?
Not getting the acknowledgement that the issue exists.
Yes, and so what's happening is you're shifting the focus, Jason, off of the real issue. You're talking about what have you heard about people instead of just saying, okay, so the issue is you started 2 months ago. Staff has been turning over in exceedingly high numbers in one of your areas. That's Isar's area. When you just focus on that. So listen, Isar, the reason I'm bringing you in here to talk to you today is that turnover in your area is exceedingly high. Do you acknowledge? He's going, well, I'm spending time with my people. I get all that, but we have standards here. Again, this is about behaviors. And our average corporate turnover rate is 25%, yet in your department, it's twice that. Whatever, right? You've got receipts. When we say exceedingly high, we need to have something, and it's at 50%. Do you acknowledge that? Okay, yeah. Well, what's going on? Well, he told you a couple things, right? Does that make sense? So stick with the issue instead of going off on these tangents. Why don't you try that one more time and start at the beginning and see what happens, okay?
And let me just start on step 2.
Start on step 2.
So you started so HR is informing me that turnover is way higher in your department than mine. And I know they've given you feedback on the exit interviews. What are some areas? Well,
What's going on? Just what's going on? Why is it happening?
Why do you think your department turnover is so high?
I don't know, maybe they're not really cut for the job, maybe we hired the wrong people from the beginning. I mean, I spend a lot of time with them individually. I go, I make sure I did lay the land for them. I want to be doing a good job, so I want to make sure they do a good job, and I want to make sure they know how tough this job is, and if they're not cut for it, then then maybe that's not our problem.
Okay, so stop, Jason, right here. What's he doing?
He's deflecting it to the employees.
Yeah, because he thinks he's doing a great job, right? So that's okay. He's made his excuse. So what I want you to do now is just go into step number 3 and say, before you do that, do you acknowledge that turnover is high in your department? And then hopefully he says, yeah, I get that. And this is why it's happening. Then you go to step 3. Just try, see what happens.
So turnover in your department is at 50%. Other departments are at 15%. That sound, based on the data you saw, does that look great?
Yeah, I guess that's not a good thing. Yeah, I can see that could be a problem, but if these people are not doing their jobs right, then maybe they don't belong here. Maybe we need to.
Nice comeback, Isar. Good job.
So we hired from the same pool of people that are in other departments, the same pool of people we're getting to your department. What do you think is different?
Maybe they're not qualified. Maybe we need to do extra vetting for them. We need to review their resume. I mean, that sales department, those guys are kind of a different kind of people. I'm in operations, we need kind of a different pool of people. Is it possible to get a different pool of applicants or job postings for us?
Based on our company profitability, there's only so much we can pay our employees. So the kind of employee that we can start from, that's what we've got. So we need to work with what's out there when we're paying only $18 an hour. So what do you suggest we can do to decrease the high turnover rate? Other than pay, but we're at the maximum we can afford. Pay that part.
Oh, that's a good question. I think some of these people, they might want to be promoted soon. I certainly want to be promoted, you know, to be honest with you, Jason, I tell you something here. Sure. It's a good place, Spencer, to bring it up.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, when your position was open, I thought I was gonna get that job. I was working so hard and I made sure that everybody under me was working so hard. But somehow you got the job here, you know? So I don't know if this organization is built right. You know, I'm working really hard. I have all these people under me working really hard, but I didn't get the reward that I thought I would get. In fact, this conversation, I was called to your office. I thought I was ready for a promotion.
So what I have observed is that this company usually will promote with it from within. But when they're not able to find somebody that has the leadership ability quality that they're looking for to lead people, keep the turnover rate low.
Oh man.
Yeah, and the higher problem from outside. So I want to work with you so that you can get promoted. But in order to do that, you need to figure out how can we reduce turnover rate.
That's really hard.
Not listening anymore yet.
Okay, let's stop here. So how's it going, Jason? You feel like you're making progress?
These conversations take longer than 2 minutes for sure. Because in order for these personality types, they're so strong-minded and stuck on what they think is what they think. They're not really open to coaching at the moment. So it takes sometimes 20, 30, 40 minutes before you get them open up enough to be willing to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, you've only been talking for 5 minutes and you're actually getting really close. You've figured out what's going on. And so any other positive feedback for Jason, team?
Maybe think about what else might be the issue as opposed to the one that you came in with initially.
No, listen, I just want you to stay focused on the outcome, and that is turnover needs to change. That's the bottom line. So often we get distracted and we overcomplicate the situation. Yeah. And the one, keep going.
The thing that I need to get to is why is he behaving in a way the company doesn't want?
Well, he already told you. He thought that if he laid down the law with his people, he was passed over for a promotion for not being tough enough on his people. So he's being tough on new people. He's spending time with them. In his mind, he's doing the right thing. Do you see how that could be a disconnect sometimes when you have and that's a real problem, isn't it? Jason, you recognize that those things happen, don't you?
I have a supervisor that was just passed over from somebody on the outside for the exact same reason.
That's exactly right. So these these scenarios I have are very normal. And so what you want to do is you want to focus, just go back up. I want you to do one thing instead of saying, what do you think we can do to reduce turnover? Keep the accountability with him. So Isar, my question is this. I get that, and I'm sorry that you got passed over for your for this promotion. And I know that must be kind of awkward for me to come in here and have this conversation with you. I'd like for you to be able to have those opportunities to grow within our organization. And you know what it starts with? It starts with you getting your turnover on your team down. And he says, well, better people. Listen, everybody gets the same quality of people. And so the variable here is you. And my question is, what are you going to do differently to reduce turnover in your department? Do you hear that language? What are you going to do differently, Isar, to reduce turnover in your department?
Well, I need your mentorship and help.
Okay. I am totally available to do that. However, again, I'm new here. What I'd like for you to do is come up with a plan, and I'd like for you to tell me in terms of that plan how you'd like me to help. But I'd like that plan to come from you.
Okay. Is there anybody else that has had this issue at the company I can talk to?
No, sorry, you're the only one that sucks, brother. That's a good question. Um, right now in my experience, it's just us. So I'd like for you to come up with what you think you could do differently, and absolutely how you want to use me. I mean, what do you think? How do you think I could help? How would you like to use me?
Well, I thought my method of meeting with every employee and laying the law of the land and whatnot was effective, but
Yeah,
maybe I need help with that. Maybe I need a different method.
sure,
Yeah.
sure. So are you saying maybe I could observe what you're doing and give you some feedback? Is that what you're saying?
That'd be amazing, actually. Yeah, maybe
Okay,
I
I'd
can.
love I'd love to do that. Why don't you come up with, a training plan and when you want to do that, and let me know, and I'll tell you when I'm available. And then we'll start with that. How does that sound?
That's great. I already have a training plan that I run the employees with, so can I just
Excellent.
ask you when you're available for the next conversation I'm gonna have with one of the guys under me?
Yeah. Now, you see how easy this conversation can go when we stay with the process. And it's not adversarial, right? I mean, these conversations feel so awkward, but I want Isar, who's got a problem, to own it and let him know that I trust him to come up with a solution. I want to be helpful and I want to support him. And here's my promise to you. I want to end a few minutes early because I want to do a little behavioral assessment with you all. My my promise to you is if you use this system, it works. I will, I'm not going to sell you anything. If you want to have a conversation with me about an employee that has a situation where you want to role play with me, I will help you prepare to have that conversation. I know that these scenarios are made up, so sometimes they don't necessarily apply exactly to your situation. But if you need to have a tough conversation with somebody, everything that you need is in this workbook. But one of the things that is most powerful is role play. Role play. This is usually it takes about a 5 hour a period of time to do this workshop to really practice it. I would love to give you that opportunity if you're interested. And as we wrap up, I'll give you the ability to set up a call with me and to download some more tools. But before we do that, we have about 12 minutes. Is that right, Steve?
Yep.
Let's do a little, let's have a little bit of fun. Can I get everybody to stand up, please? I need you to find a little bit of room spread out in the room because I want you to turn towards the screen. So you're going to be facing me. Okay. And we are going to do what's called a scattergram. And this is a leadership exercise. And so you're going to have to make a decision between two adjectives about which describes you more. So let's do this together. What I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to tell you two words: persuasive and humble. If you are more persuasive, I want you to step like there's a piece of tape in front of your feet. I want you to take a step forward. If you are more humble, I want you to take a step backwards. Do you understand the assignment?
Mm.
Okay. So I'm going to do that several times and I'm going to go very fast. You have to choose. Now, remember your starting point. Okay. So if you're more persuasive, step forward, or more humble, step back. If you are more loud, step forward, or more soft spoken, step back. If you are more daring, step forward. If you are more prepared, step back. If you are more impulsive, step forward, or more steady, step back. If you're more analytical, step forward, or more accurate, step back. If you're more of a risk taker, step forward, or more sensitive, step back. If you're more results oriented, step forward, or more perfectionistic, step back. If you are quick, step forward, or deliberate, step back. If you're friendly, step forward, or more discreet, step back. Assertive, forward, careful, back. Controlling, forward, supportive, back. Motivating, forward, thoughtful, back. Energetic, forward, reserved, back. And one more, spontaneous, forward, and predictable, back. Okay, how many of you ended up in front of the line?
Oh, what's up, Norman?
Okay. I want you to come to the front of the room, close to the monitor. If you ended up behind the line, I want you to go to the back of the room by the picture on the wall there.
I did not step backward at all.
Something's wrong with me.
Okay. And that's not a punishment to be at the back of the room at all. It's just different, right? Okay. So we've divided you one way. We're going to do it again, but let's talk a little bit about the differences of the people in the front of the room. People typically at the front of the room are more direct, fast-paced, action-oriented. Is that true?
Yeah, it is.
People at the back of the room are typically more thoughtful, a little more reserved, and a little more indirect. What's the difference between direct? Direct says, turn on the light. Indirect says, if you don't mind, will you please turn on the light? Does that sound about right? So one is not better or worse. They're just different. Okay. Now, as you are facing the front of the room where the monitor is, I want you to step either left or right. And I know that there's not a lot of room. So just wherever you are, you're going to have to go left or right. And I know, and you need to end up either on the left or the right side of that piece of tape. Okay. So if you're more challenging, I want you to step left. If you're more agreeable, I want you to step right. If you're more decisive, I want you to step left, or more sociable, step right. If you're more adventuresome, I want you to step left, or more deliberate, step right. Diplomatic left, considerate right. Competitive left, easygoing right. Stubborn to the left, sweet to the right. Bold to the left, charming to the right. Admirable to the left, or kind to the right. Forceful to the left, or patient to the right. Skeptical left, receptive right. Trustworthy left, generous right. Concrete to the left, or compassionate to the right. Okay. Now, based on whether you're front of the room or back of the room, doesn't matter. I need you to get on the left side of the room if you ended up on the left side of where you started. So to my right is your left. Is that right?
We're on the left side.
Right in the middle.
Right. And then if you're on the right side, you're going to be on my left side of the room, but your right side, okay, facing me. Now, where are you, Cody? Are you in the middle there somewhere? You're on the left side. Okay. Now, I want to tell you that this is completely unscientific, but it's based on theory. And if we get your hydrate, which this is your hydrate, we have 50 to 70% accurate of how you behave. Okay, so I'm going to start with the people in the front of the room on the left side. This is what we call high dominance. This is basically a forced matrix disc type profile. And like I said, it's only 50 to 70% accurate, but that's okay. So those of you on the front left are typically more assertive, control oriented, competitive, like to say things only once, pretty direct. Is that true?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to communicating or delegating, you like things to be done your way. True? Under pressure, when you're frustrated, when you're angry, when you're upset. Now, in very rare circumstances, you can turn into a dictatorial steamroller, meaning you disregard people's feelings if you're honest. Does that ever happen in extreme situations? Okay. Now, just to your to the right side, the people at the front of the room on the right side, This is the fun group. This is the people that love to party, love to communicate, love to motivate and encourage and engage with people. Is that true?
There's nobody
There's nobody there.
There's nobody.
Oh, this is not a fun group. We have nobody here to party.
Very serious.
Of all the three types, they're usually best at delegation because they want to let go. Although they don't want to look bad, right? They like recognition, and so that's where they get hung up on delegation. Their backup style under pressure is they launch a verbal attack. They talk too much. They oversell, and sometimes they just don't shut up, and that or they get sarcastic, and that's a challenge. Okay, the back right side. That's Kim's group over there. This is the nicest of all the traits. This is this is the trait that likes harmony, and you high dominant people need to be nice to them.
We like it. We like
Okay.
it.
When you're talking to them, you need to give them a little bit of space. You need to give them time to think. You need to give them time to prepare, right? If you have a meeting and you need them to give feedback, make sure you give them some warning so that they can be prepared because they do not love to be put on the spot, although they'll totally do it, right? But if I give you a warning and say, hey, I need you to speak up at next week's meeting and take 10 minutes, you'll be prepared, won't you? Under pressure, when you're frustrated, angry, or upset, you tend to procrastinate or avoid conflict. Is that true? If you're honest. And when you're talking to the high dominants, they're the most opposite of you. Get to the damn point. They'll love you if you give your opinions and you speak up. Now, that's your role in speaking to them, but that's the challenge that you have in delegating is that you don't want to have those tough conversations. If people screw up, it means it's easier just to do it yourself, right? Sometimes. Am I getting close? Anybody? Somewhat? Okay. The back left. Just one of you?
Just one.
Yeah.
All right, this is the smart guy. This is the guy. This is the guy that's been fact checking me the whole time. Asking Chat GPT if what I said was right, doing the research on me. He's gonna be you're gonna be more prepared. You like to have structure, you like to know what's expected. And when it comes to delegating, you're gonna be different than high dominance because it's not about your way, it's about the way. Does that make sense? Does that resonate with you? You like things done the right way, so it's all about process and rules. True?
He
checked
Yeah.
GPTs himself as well.
I don't you're not answering. Am I wrong?
I think you're right, yeah.
Under pressure, when you're frustrated, angry, or upset, you can get stubborn. You'll actually cross your arms and be resistant. That's the backup style for what we call high conformity. Now, now this is like I said, this is pretty unscientific. Now, I've just divided you by the 4 high traits. There's so much more to your personality than just the high trait. You're not all exactly the same, and this is not about making excuses for behaviors. It's learning about what your high trait is and how that impacts your leadership and your delegation style. And more importantly, understanding your people so that you can coach them, you can speak to them in the way that they can actually hear you. So I hope you enjoyed that process. Go ahead and take your seats. And like you said, if you want to have a scientific assessment and get really clear about how you think, how you manage a team, how much pressure and stress you're under, I've got a tool for you. There is a cost. It's $50, but here's the thing. That's just my cost for the survey. If you don't want to do that, totally fine. There's a free one, a free disc profile. You can do that. If you do buy the Pro Scan and you ask for it, I will spend an hour with you going over your results. And it seriously can be a life-changing experience. It's super powerful. There's, like I say, there's no sales pitch involved. And I'm also happy to talk to you about your coaching situation. So in order to do that, I want to give you guys this QR code. And this will download 2 of the articles that I've talked about. The Ralph Stayer article called How I Learned to Let My Workers Lead. It will also download for you the time management, Who's Got the Monkey. There is a survey in there for how good you are delegating within your organization. It's a self-evaluation tool that's fantastic. So you can really, I know some of you said you're doing mediocre. Well, this will give you a score on how you're actually doing. And then lastly, there is a survey, there's a free disc profile, or there's an appointment you can set up with me to really get dialed in and figure out where you are and what your strengths are and what your blocks to effective delegation and leadership are. Um, Here's my promise to you. I mean, I'd love for you to do that. Here, I'll put it back up. Sorry. It also gives you an opportunity to give me feedback, which is super helpful to me. I want to thank you for allowing me to spend a few hours with you today. I know it's hard when I'm not in the room, but you absolutely nailed it with your discussion. I'm really, really proud of you, the effort you put into this. There's more work to be done, and I promise you it works. You will see the whole point is to elevate your people so that they take on more responsibility. Delegate the problem solving, delegate the corrective behavior to them, empower them, show them that you trust them, mentor them, coach them, help them to solve their own problems, and they will love you for it. I cannot tell you how grateful I am for some of the mentors I've had in my life. They mean the world to me. You can be that to somebody that loves their job because you've trusted them enough to take ownership and to make an impact in the work that they do. And thank you again for letting me come, Steve and Thomas. I turn the time back over to you, Steve.
Thank you very much. So, do you have any questions before Spencer takes off? Here's the code again if you want to bring that
Yeah, I'll
up.
put it back up. But if you have questions, I'd love to answer them.
Yeah, any questions before he takes off?
I had a question on, going back to that exercise with the one-on-one.
Yeah.
It start pretty difficult.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry.
In the beginning, you're asking pretty neutral fact-finding questions, right?
Yeah.
But ran into that difficult personality. There was a bit of like a pivot there. Like you became more assertive and somewhat escalated the possibility for conflict. Is that a comment on that?
You say I became more assertive and escalated the prospect of or potential for conflict. Is that what I heard you say?
You start would have just kept doing the dance over and over again. Like you needed to be more assertive.
That's right. Instead of dancing around the issue, it is an assertive discussion. And the thing about being assertive, it's assertive is standing up for yourself without making others wrong, right? So I love the assertive versus aggressive. It's like, hey, the reason I called you in here because X is happening. They make their excuses, and I just stick with that. Okay, I understand, I understand you think that the people that you're getting aren't quality. However, they're the same people that every other department has. Stick with the facts. Turnover in your department is 50%. The standard is 25. So what I'm hearing you say is that you think you're doing a good job, but yet the people are quality poor. To me, the issue is right now with you. Do you acknowledge that turnover is at an unacceptable level? Stick with the facts. You're not calling them lazy. You're not saying that they're doing a crap. You're just saying turnover is unacceptable. And that's not what, needs to happen. So what can you do to shift whatever you're doing to train your people to work to bring that down? And they may not know. And it's okay to give them a little bit of space to say, well, I needed to think about that. Okay. How much time do you need? Well, can I have a couple of days and think about what I'm doing? Absolutely. Does that make sense? So you don't have to just ram it down their throat. Want them to think about it. And they need to be aware of what it is they're doing and what's causing that to be in a coachable or teachable place. Does that help?
Yeah. I didn't know you could spell assertive without ass.
You didn't know you could be what? Spell assertive without ass?
Yeah. I guess you could.
Assertive is a great place to be. And a lot of times people feel uncomfortable being assertive. And if you do it wrong, yes, you can come across as an ass. but I think if you're doing it with respect and kindness, right? I mean, you really have their best interest at heart. Listen, I want you to succeed. I want you to get that promotion that you're looking for. And the way to do that is to get turnover down. And I want to help you do that, but help me help you kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Good question.
Anything else? Okay, I think that's a wrap. We appreciate you dropping in and giving us some real good tools to take back to our company. So
Great to be with you all. Good luck, and I hope to talk with some of you soon. Talk to you later.
okay, thanks a lot. Bye.